Shows to Grand Casino Arena the next year, including Lionel Richie with Earth, Wind, and Fire on June 24th and the Smashing Pumpkins on October 13th. Tickets are on sale now. Get the complete details on all of our upcoming shows on the concert page at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
We couldn't have timed it better. 12:50 was the start time. It's 12:50. Has the coach started talking yet?
No, not yet.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. That maybe with the new GM. First thing, if I'm the GM, I should have talked to the GM and said, you know what, my one request. When you talk to the head coach, could you tell him that when the news conference is scheduled for 12:50, be there at 12:50? You've heard me say this. When the game's a noontime start, the team doesn't show up at 12:10. They're there when it's time the game to start. And so these media people, they have things to do. Now, and then here's what's even... I took the time to make my lunch during that last break. I heated up all my food, ready to dig in so that I'd be attentive. I not only would I hear the news conference, but I would feed myself. And now here we are, waiting for him to begin. No! I don't, we've discussed this, Tenneby, just earlier this week, I think, where, KOC is like a lot of these younger coaches. They're very, I don't know, I don't know if it's new age or modern or just the way they're much more polished when it comes to the way they talk about it. They seem to have a way of saying things without divulging too much. And then we talked about how when they asked Danny Campbell that he's so old school. And again, let me preface this by saying it's not just, this is not to suggest that Dan Campbell's a better coach than KOC. I don't know who the best, you just go by wins and losses, right? But they asked the cliche, so Dan, have you seen any young guys impressed you in Otis? And he just called Otis a pajama party. He said it's so overhyped. He said
I always love that one.
There's nothing to it. And when I said that to Lieber goes, because I told you about when I bumped into Lieber out at the Vikings Foundation tournament. He loves Otis. I said, well, of course you do, because you don't have to hit and you get to hang out with your buddies. No, you learn a lot there. There's a lot you get accomplished. You're not going to get me going. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. All right. I guess I don't. But we'll see how, what Kevin has to say about what's been accomplished here at Otis so far. I'm sure he'll get grilled about the quarterbacks. That'll probably be question number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
His relationship with the new GM. What do you think of him? Oh, yeah,
that's true, yeah.
Do you have chemistry? All that fun jazz.
And I guess that is important.
And then let me guess. He really likes the new GM. He thinks they're going to work well together.
Right. Instead of doing he's on one side of the new Winter Park and I'm on the other. We'll see how it goes. I'm not so sure. He comes from a whole different culture. He comes from Seattle. So we'll find out how it works, which is the truth. But you're right. It's all public relations and he can't say that. And we'll see how that goes.
I did have 5 questions set up if you want me to ask them. And then we can just cut to KOC in the middle of it if you want.
Yeah, why not?
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Brought to you by Willow River Company. Question number 1.
Go Vikings!
Oh, Vikings.
Let's win this game. You'll hear us yell for more.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the state of the skull.
It's more of a look at the Green Bay Packers, but it has to do with the Minnesota Vikings because it looks like Packers star defensive superstar edge rusher Micah Parsons will start the NFL season on the PUP list as he attempts to come back from his torn ACL. Of course, the Vikings face the Packers in Week 1, so it looks like Parsons will not be able to play for Green Bay in that game. Common, how big of a loss is Micah Parsons for the Packers Week 1 against the Purple?
Would you rather do 534 read text messages from listeners about Uncrustables?
Whatever you want to do.
Well, that would be, I don't, if a guy's hurt, the guy's hurt. And if a guy's taking a while to come back from injury, he's coming back from injury. And that's just the way, that's the way the football bounces. I don't really, I'm not a guy that wishes injuries on players, but yeah, I mean, if he's not in the game week 1, that'll benefit the purple. Is he the best edge rusher in football? He probably is, right? So it would benefit them, but we're a long way from there. My guess is he'll be ready week 1, but I've missed my guesses before. But yeah, if he's out of the game, that's one of those things where is the game at Green Bay or Minnesota? Week 1, I don't recall.
It's here.
Okay, so let's say right now as we speak, Minnesota probably be a 3-point favorite, right? With him in the game, to me, it's a toss-up. If he's out of the game, the Vikings are a 7-point favorite. You know what I'm saying? I think he makes that much of a difference in the game. So it would benefit the Vikings, but I'd rather see him play. Beat the best.
The other Packer news, by the way, is they signed a contract extension, 4 years, $110.5 million with wide receiver Christian Watson.
Really?
Who can never stay on the field, is hurt every single season. So I get like wide receivers make just astronomical money, and I guess in the grand scheme of things, like it's not an enormous amount for wide receivers, but still, the guy can't stay on the field, and he hasn't even proven it yet. So I don't think I'd be making that contract. I would not have advised the Packers on offering that large amount.
Question number 2.
We're gonna win, Twins, we're gonna score.
It's now time to delve deep into Twins territory.
Coach, he's supposed to do news conference today, or he forget.
Cheer for the Minnesota Twins today.
They should on the press release just say, pressers at 12:50. Well, actually, 1 o'clock, but 12:50 sounds better than 12:55.
Correct.
The Twins traded Simeon Woods-Richardson to the Toronto Blue Jays for cash yesterday. Woods-Richardson was designated for assignment last week, and after going 0 for 7 with a 7.74 ERA and 47 2/3 innings this season, he was out of minor league options, meaning the Twins had to expose him to waivers to send him to the minor leagues. The Twins had acquired Woods-Richardson from the Toronto Blue Jays back in 2021, along with Austin Martin in that Jose Barrios deal. Common, what was your favorite Simeon Woods-Richardson moment?
He went from starting the season as the 4th or 5th starter to being traded for cash. And, there was a time I would criticize the Twins for, it's all about the money. Instead of getting a player, they get cash. Who did they trade him to?
Toronto.
Well, if Toronto is looking for pitching help in the form of Simeon Woods-Richardson, they must not have a lot to offer back, so I think I'd take the money and run too. It's kind of, he looked like he was one of those guys that you're going to be able to rely on. Just, never going to be an ace on your staff, not even a number 2, probably not a 3, but a 4 or 5. Guy's going to give you some innings, give you a chance to win most games, or at least keep you in the game for a while. And I don't know. It's pitching is the one position in all of sports that, to me, it's like, it's what Dark used to say with Liriano. If he's got it, you're in good shape. If he doesn't, get the women and children out of the first 5 rows. Guys can have it one game and not the next. And then because of the stress they put on their arms as a starter, where you're looking to pitch a guy, I mean, you'd like to get him to 80, 90 pitches a game if he has a good performance, right? But still throwing as hard as they can for that 80, 90 pitch. It's just like it seems like you're just one throw away from Tommy John surgery. Look at Lopez, out for the season. So I'd take the cash. And it's not good when the Twins, who have had so many injuries, they were down to 4 pitchers, 4 starters as of last week. And the quote from Shelton, the manager, was, well, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm just trying to get through the next game. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So when you are trading a guy that was penciled in as your number 4 starter or number 5, and now you've traded him and you have starting pitcher issues with injuries, he's Simeon Wood. They must not have had any hope for him at all going forward.
Yeah, it's not like this staff is fully healthy and we didn't have enough innings to go around.
Correct.
So that's the other part of it. I would like to know, I'm very curious, because we hear this all the time where players are, in baseball, where they're like traded for cash. What kind of cash are we talking about here? Like, did Simeon Woods Richardson literally just get traded for like $5,000, or are we talking like $100,000? I would say like $40,000.
I would say 100 sounds about right.
You think it would be that much?
That'd be my guess, $100,000.
Yeah, because the Twins were going to lose him anyway to waivers. So at this point, you're just going, well, whatever you want to give us, we'll give you. We'll take it. I wish they would tell us how much the cash was.
I'm going to ask AI, see if they know.
Because we never hear.
I'm going to ask Google. Siri, how much money did the Twins receive? Hold on. Twins received for Simeon Woods
KOC
Richardson. KOC, here he goes.
Jeff, do you want me to wait for any of those folks?
I mean, it's like, hello.
Good.
Just says cash consideration.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys coming out today. Wanted to start out. I know it's been a kind of pretty significant week news-wise for us as an organization, an impactful week. But I did want to start out today and just pay my thoughts and respects to Mr. Larry Fitzgerald Sr. Thinking about obviously Larry and Marcus, his sons, and just the family, and obviously as a guy that was such a mainstay in the market for such a long time. I know it had an impact, on many of you guys and just you guys and your relationships with Larry, and just wanted to make sure that from a organizational perspective, we're paying our respects, and just he's on our minds, and I know the same probably for many of you guys. OTAs, obviously, as we head into minicamp next week, we've gotten a lot accomplished in the 6 days so far. Our guys have totally attacked this with the intentionality of what we're trying to get done, schematical emphasis, fundamentals and technique emphasis, and then obviously the early stages of what's going to be a very competitive football team across the board. It was good to have Nolan out for his first practice today. One of first of many, and awesome to have seen him introduced in such a positive way yesterday. Really excited about having him aboard and everything that there is to come. But I'll open it up to you guys.
Is wearing women's underwear part of your
training?
training?
The receivers behind your three starters, how do you kind of weigh that competition, and what can you kind of pick up early here?
Yeah, I think it's really set up well right now with three guys, adding a veteran player like Jawan to the mix to kind of solidify the room as a whole. But then you look at, Ty Felton, his improvement and his, traits that he brings to the room that are clear every single day we're out here from a speed and explosiveness standpoint. He continues to grow. And obviously Miles Price has had, he would be right up there as far as, impactful springs in his growth and development so far through 6 days and even beyond that in phase 2. And then you got a whole bunch of guys competing as well with those two guys, and that's where special teams comes into play, where clearly Ty and Miles have defined roles there. But what else and how else can we make this competitive? Got some young guys we're excited about, and let those guys compete and battle. They'll get a ton of work, obviously, as you guys know, during the preseason games, and it's about preparing yourself right now to attack that.
How have you seen JJ handle the addition of a veteran quarterback?
I think he's handled it really well. He's been great in the meeting rooms. I'm spending a little bit more time with those guys and just the dialogue between the group. Obviously, the great questions you get from those guys as we're going through the installation process. And, we have really guys that are all at different stages of not only their career, but their understanding and application of our offense. So there's many times where Kyler may have a question that, mirrored a question that JJ had during his, year on the grass last year and playing, and there's dialogue that comes. There's been tweaks to the offense that we've made off of some of those conversations and dialogue. But he's been great in the meeting room. He's been great on the grass, and as always, he's, as a captain and a guy that helps lead our team, he's been phenomenal there as well.
When you see a light turn on, like these guys are here for a reason. Obviously, they're great players.
Yeah.
But Dominic was just talking about, I know that these guys are good, but they're the best at their position, and now my eyes are open when I go into even OTAs.
Yeah.
How can you, as a head coach, when you see a player of that caliber, realizing, oh, I got to take this next level now?
Yeah, I think, I'm always trying to emphasize the urgency of whatever time of year it is. It's such a short amount of time to really be able to be on the grass where real learning takes place. You guys have heard me say that before. I love the meeting room. I love the teaching side of it. But that's the type of coaching staff I want to have, is they're at their best when they're in it on the grass with their players. And I think it's important that whether it's a veteran player coming here for the first time, establishing those relationships and just the identity of our team, but then the young players, like that is maybe the most significant thing, is getting them to a place where that feeling kind of goes away and they're so focused and entrenched on the detail of doing their job and the details of the scheme. And there's plenty of them on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game that we need these guys. We need them to come along quickly. We've got to coach with that kind of standard every day, and then we got to, most importantly, especially this time of year, reflect on what happened and then make sure in the meeting rooms we're growing and not making mistakes twice and feeling like we can put some things to bed and move forward with our whole team.
What have you thought about just being around Kyler the first few weeks on the field, off the field?
Yeah, I think he's, it's been fantastic just to see, just the daily growth for a guy that was, obviously with one organization, but really, two schemes throughout his time in Arizona. Our scheme's a little, probably different than what he's most comfortable doing from the time on task there, and just the way he's kind of the daily growth, just as simple as comparing day one of calling plays versus today. It's like two totally different guys. His physical talent throwing the ball has been on display, every day. The ability to throw to all three levels, layer the ball, anticipation that veteran players bring to the position. And, like I said, all four of those guys are in different points in their comfort level in our offense, their comfort level of playing the position in their careers, and all trying to apply those things to what they're doing right now. But I've been really happy with the way both those guys, JJ and Kyler, have kind of attacked it in their own individual kind of ways, knowing that they're competing. Look, it's a competition. These guys are working every day. They know that. But the greater good of the Minnesota Vikings and our team ceiling is the most important thing that's clear to both of those guys.
On that, what was your thought about JJ's comments, Kevin, last week, where he talked about, I'm on one side of the classroom, he's on. He got lots of plays. Yeah. What was your takeaway from those comments?
Yeah, those things are always tough for me because I'm in it. I'm around it every day. So another's interpretation of those comments are going to be what they are. I would just say that in the room and the actual day-to-day, the dialogue between those guys, the interactions have been very professional, and even more so than that, it's just been a positive room, and I think Carson has a lot to do with that as the veteran in the room. And obviously, I would never discount Josh McCown's extensive career as a player in those quarterback rooms and how he manages the room and engages with everybody in there. So I didn't make a lot out of it. I know there was some reaction to it, and that's probably not the first time there's going to be a reaction to those guys kind of, answering questions about the situation, and that's what part of the competition is all about. It's going to be, look, we're not trying to, there's no hiding anything. It's going to be, displayed on the field, and their teammates and coaching staff and the guys in this building have to feel conviction about the direction we go, and you do that by your daily habits and just improving.
Like that potential to us, because McCarthy was such a fun guy last year at this time, smiling, and do you almost as a coach like the fact that he appears to be a little bit ticked off and more driven? Yeah, all that stuff. From a standpoint of what actually matters is what I care about. Did we take the right footwork on a play? Did we have our eyes in the right spot? Did we make a protection call against one of Flo's blitz looks? Did we do our jobs to manufacture the starting point and potential path to success for the offense? And there's enough that goes into that I don't have a ton of space left over for who says what and how they say it. I mean, it's all a reflection of how people handle competitive situations, and we're all going to handle them differently. What I care about is when they step between the white lines,
that there's growth and development, and that it really is a competition, and guys are required to be, wherever they're at right now. I want the best version of that. That doesn't mean it has to be perfect for either one of those guys, but it just needs to be a continued arrow up, attacking the things that individually we've emphasized with both players and really all the players in our quarterback room, but also as a collective group, knowing just how impactful that position is to everything you do in pro football. There's no bigger truth than that.
Realistically, do they, in the situation, whether it's JJ and Kyler or any quarterback, do they need to be buddies? Or is it just what's...
Yeah, I mean, it's not just in the quarterback room. There's an emphasis on, I want players who are smart, tough, guys that love football, and guys who, I don't even want to say are great teammates. You need to attempt to be a great teammate. And you need to repeat that time and time again, because that process never stops. But it also doesn't mean that everybody has to be smiling every day, that everybody has to, when they speak to you guys, I want them to be open. I want them to be honest, because I think it's all part of having a transparent quarterback competition that allows these guys to truly demonstrate that they can consistently be the same guy every day and stack really good days. And when they do that, the team grows. And that's what I ultimately care about, is that position being an igniter of our team getting to what our ceiling may be for this year. And we're far from that right now, this early in the process.
Do you view Ingram Dawkins as a guy who can give you snaps on the edge and on the D-line?
I do. And, whether it's, Ryan Nielsen or Flo or Thad, just, the conversations that we're having as a group about, one of the things we really liked about him was his versatility. And he did a lot of different things at Georgia, and he's a really heavy presence on the edge. We're trying to run the ball out at that CD gap out there, and he's out there setting the edge. That's different. And then his versatility to kick inside. And, I don't know if we'll see him get much tighter than maybe a 3, but from the 3 technique all the way out to the edge, that's a really versatile player. And then you pair that with what Caleb can be from a versatile standpoint, really being kind of from that 4-eye 5 technique on down. It's exciting, and he's had a really good spring. And that kind of year 2 jump, we're hoping and is happening right now.
In your ongoing conversations with Harrison Smith, is there an update at all in terms of his status? Do you expect him to come back or not? What's the
only update that I can give is he was in town and saw some folks. I didn't get to see him. I was incredibly hurt by that. And then in an attempt to play some golf with him, I was turned down. That's the only update that, kind of in an embarrassing fashion I'm willing to give today, because that's really what it is right now. You know what? I think Harrison Smith is going to want to play football till, he's old and gray, which the last time I checked had not happened yet. I haven't seen him, like I said, lately. But it never quite goes away. I mean, shoot, I wish I could go play. Nobody wants to see that, but I wish I could go play right now. But I think it's probably a deeper conversation than just the want to at this point. And those conversations will take place, obviously, respectfully for Harrison throughout, the summer and where he's at. And then as we get into training camp, where he's at. And, it could be an ongoing thing, how our season goes and how he views it and ultimately what that looks like. But he's earned the respect of everybody in this building to have that type of dialogue and communication.
And how
we talked a lot about wide zone kind of this spring. Yeah. What about this time allows that to come to fruition?
Yeah, we've kind of, the rules are in place for a reason. I'm a fan of those rules because it tends to lead to player health and safety being the priority. But we have found unique ways, as you guys have probably seen, of trying to really emulate what we're hunting. It's one thing to call a wide zone play, but I want the principles, the techniques, the fundamentals, guys getting off the football, running off the football. I want those things to be in alignment with more than just lines on a chalkboard. And I think we're getting that. I think Keith's done a phenomenal job, really being the engine behind the technique and fundamentals. And I can't understate Frank's impact from a schematical, big picture standpoint of really being what we want to be as an offense, and what that looks like continues to evolve and kind of change. You get new ideas every day based upon some things you see. And that's the real benefit of going against Flo's group every day is they're going to be dynamically lining up in different spots. And, you've got to coach it in a way that doesn't make your guys play slow. They have to be able to think fast, get off the ball fast, play with physicality, and finish all while having the confines of what the off-season rules are. So we're finding unique ways to make sure we abide by that, but also get our guys some work so that the first time we get to training camp, it's not such a shock as maybe as it's been in previous years.
How has Christian Darrisaw handled being back out there and seemingly close to full capacity? And did you guys expect him out at this time?
Yeah, we did. And Christian's had a great spring. I think Keith has done a really good job with Christian, understanding that as we progress through the spring, getting when we have our opportunities to have him in there, which has been pretty much in totality, we're being smart with him, but at the same time we're making sure he's part of this collective O-line group elevation that's happening. That group has a high standard for themselves. Christian has a very high standard for himself, and that's one of the reasons why we're so excited to have him back and feeling healthy and feeling good. And now we just need to continue to progress that way in a way that allows him to feel great starting the season. And there's a lot of guys on our team, coming out of the seasons, coming out of the different years of their career. That's why Tyler's so impactful and important, because we shape all of their kind of individual plans with making sure it all is in alignment with working backwards from that home opener against Green Bay. Thanks, guys.
Tennessee, I'm so pumped after that news conference. I have a genie's bottle, and I could rub it, and the genie would pop out and say, Master, you have 3 wishes. Wish number 1 would be to have 3 more wishes. Wish number 2, re-rack that interview and do it again. No, that would be week 1, Green Bay versus Minnesota. That's the head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. We'll have all of our reaction to all of that news conference action. We'll do that next. But Tennessee and comment on the Got-It Brother on the Fan.
The Common Man.
I just don't really...
Looking to score tickets to the biggest games and concerts in town? From Santana, the Doobie Brothers, 311, Snoop Dogg, and more, your chance to win is waiting. Enter now at KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
Head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings just had is that his first OTA news conference of the year? I think so. If he'd had another, I wasn't around for it. He'd said during there that Kyler Murray is showing a lot of daily growth. As a matter of fact, I heard he's up to 5'9" now. He did that where... when you go to the doctor's office for a physical, and they always want to see how tall you're, said, hasn't changed since the last time I was here. But I guess I'll do it for you. I'll humor you. The other one is when they want to ask you, step on the scale. I'm always like, well, you're going to put down 100 whatever. Now it's, trust me, I've lost 30 pounds thanks to mnfatloss.com. But the clothes you're wearing are going to add another what? How much do you think clothes weigh? If you have
your shoes.
Yeah,
if you keep those on.
Shoes, your pants, belt, t-shirt, underwear, socks. How much do you weigh? And then yours is even more skewed because you've got your cell phone in your pocket, you've got your keys in your pocket, you've got your Uncrustable in your pocket. I mean, there's so much in your pocket. What kind of controversy do you like best in sports, Tennessee? Quarterback controversy. I love quarterback controversies. And he insisted, he being Kevin, that it is a true competition between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. But
he didn't say Carson Wentz?
That's what I was going to say. No. He didn't say Carson Wentz. And, of course, Lieber thinks he's number 1 on the depth chart. Well, then how can that be if he's not even – he wasn't brought up as the guy. He addressed the what did you make of, I'm sitting on the other car side of it. It's just like two guys, the McCarthy, the 9 comments about when they asked him about working with Murray. He said it's just two guys on different sides of the classroom. And he basically said it's much ado about nothing. I'm not concerned about that. That noise I don't really hear. I just care about what happens between the lines. And I actually tend to believe him a little bit there. I mean, it's possible he could have afterwards and said, just name, rank, and serial number from now on, guys. We don't need to stir the pot up anymore. We don't need to, we don't need to give the media jackals more to write about or talk about. But let me say this, Tenneby. After hearing him say it's a true quarterback competition, could it really be a true quarterback competition? But as you and I talked about before, in order for McCarthy to win that competition, he would have to grow. You talk about some growth by McCarthy. He would have to grow by leaps and bounds. It would have to be almost a complete. It'd like to be like when Clark Kent turns into Superman. That's how much of a transformation it would have to be, I think. So technically, yeah, it's a competition because if McCarthy just all of a sudden came out and looked like Tom Brady or Pat Mahomes, well, yeah, he's the starting quarterback. But what are the chances of that happening from what we've seen so far? Does that make sense?
Well, if anyone can do it, it's the quarterback whisperer.
Well, that's it.
I mean,
and maybe that's
did you make that transformation with Sam Darnold?
And maybe that is it. Well, actually, as we found out, that had more to do with Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, but that's another story in itself. And I know, we talked about this too, and you had said, and I tend to agree with it to a certain extent, but maybe I'm changing my mind a little bit. And what I'm saying is, Murray ain't coming here unless he's told he's going to be the starter. But do they really do those kind of guarantees? I mean, I don't know how many offers do you think there were out there for Kyler Murray? There's half the teams at least half the teams have their guy already. Even if they don't like him, they got their guy. So I don't think it was like, boy, I've got about 8-9 choices of where I want to play quarterback. Which one's the best? And if he was looking for which one's the best, it's like I said about Cousins when they drafted Penix. It's like if I'm Kyler Murray, I go, well, sure, I'll come here. I can beat that kid out. I'm really good. I won a Heisman Trophy. I know the Cardinals don't think I'm any good anymore, but I think I'm really good. Me against McCarthy? Well, that's like taking candy from a baby. I'm in. I'm not worried. You don't have to guarantee me any job. I'll win that job. So maybe that's part of it, too. I don't know. I mean, I do believe, though, as we speak today, week 1 against Green Bay, Kyler Murray is going to be under center. Or maybe working out of the pistol or the shotgun, but I think he's going to be the starting quarterback. But maybe there is sort of a competition, but as we say, there really isn't because Murray, has accomplished significantly more. I know he hasn't been great. That's why he's gone from Cardinals, but he's accomplished significantly more than McCarthy has.
Here's what I don't understand about the competition part, though, is if it is a true competition, then these two, through OTAs and training camp, are getting equal reps. I guess maybe Carson Wentz is getting equal reps as well, according to some other people around here. You get into preseason games, and one's going to start one game, one's going to start the other game. I would think Kyler, just completely having to learn a new offensive system, that KFC would be like, we need to get him as many reps as possible.
Right.
So then can you really have a true fair competition then if Kyler's getting more looks at the ones and you want to get him as many snaps as possible because he's got a lot to learn. So I guess maybe it's a competition for a week or two, but I just don't see this going into third preseason game and we don't know who our starting quarterback is.
Right. I tend to agree with that for sure. And, we just talked earlier about KOC seems to prefer those controlled, what do they call them? Those controlled
joint
practices rather than the preseason. But because you have a quarterback learning a new system, I think, like I said before, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, I do think Murray and McCarthy will play some in the preseason. I don't think there's going to be Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer. I don't think those are going to be the only two guys playing. I think those guys will. Now, are they going to play entire halves? No, but I think he's going to want to say, Kyler, I want to see you run the first team offense here in a real game situation after the opening kickoff. We will receive. We get the ball. I want you to do a series or two and go out. But maybe not. Maybe it will. Maybe they won't play at all in the preseason. But then if they do, are they playing with the other ones? And that's the complicated part about it, I guess. Let's take a break, come back, talk a bit more Vikings. I want to talk some more about NBA, NHL Game 2 tonight, right? We'll get to that as well and other topics here on, and Mark Rosen just before 2, here on the Common Man program on The Fan.
Corey Cove take on Zach Halverson and Kevin Fallness. Friday, June 12th.
KFAN program.
Would love to.
Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryan text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Phone number is 1-800-320-5326. This number is no longer in service. Booth at KFAN.com is our email address, KFAN Talkbacks. Download the iHeartRadio app if you haven't done so already. Search stations, find the fan, do a preset, and then tap the microphone icon 30 seconds or less to deliver us a message. And then there's the ever-popular and handy-dandy Brad, Sean, Bryant, KFAN text line 64686, I think. I don't remember the numbers. They're no longer posted here in the studio. But someone had a Lions question of all things. It says, Common, you may have already mentioned this, but I didn't catch it. Did you hear that the Kitties are already down a wide receiver for the upcoming season, injured in OTAs either today or yesterday? I did see that. It was a rookie, Kevin Law, something Law, Johnny Law, out of Kentucky. And again, it's not good, but I don't know how much they expected from a fifth-round wide receiver. I mean, obviously they liked him enough to use a fifth-round pick on him, but I don't. They've got their top 3 wide receivers right now. Now that kid couldn't make a splash, but they got him on Ross St. Brown. Is it Jameson?
He's been under good behavior for like a year or so, hasn't he? Now
he's been doing better. And then that Tesla guy. He's funny. He's had like 4 catches, and 3 of them have been for touchdowns. They've been just acrobatic catches, but they expect more from him as time goes by. But yeah, there was that injury loss, ACL. So the rookie will have to make his debut next year. This text message came in. It says, do you agree with Tom Palio? And I think he meant to say Palacero. And Meat Sauce. Well, anything Meat Sauce says you have to take with a grain of salt, right? But do you agree with Tom Palio and Meat Sauce that J.J. McCarthy will be traded by week 1? Is that like... I didn't see Palacero.
Has Palacero said that?
Well, I don't know. That's what he says. So I don't know that. Again, whether he said that or not. I don't think anything is ever off the table in sports. Sports is your whole life, just sports. I never thought Karl Anthony Towns would be traded three days before preseason, before the season started. And, I think Tim O'Connell probably wishes he wouldn't have made that trade now. But that's a whole other story in itself. Maybe other people still think it was a good deal. I was pretty much opposed to that trade. I liked what Towns brought to the table and the hard court. And I know there was second apron stuff, but it's like, well, there are teams that find ways to pay more than one guy. And, Gobert wasn't making as much as Big Meow, but he was making a significant chunk. And I know you have to pay Naz Reid and you have to pay this guy, that guy. Well, okay. Then if you value Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert more than Karl Anthony Towns, knock yourself out. I don't. And Towns was simply brilliant last night. I mean, Wembanyama struggled offensively. He had 21 points, but it took him 6 shots to get there.
Made 6. He attempted like 21.
Yeah, he attempted 21. I mean, and again, Barkley isn't the final word, but he said the same thing. It was either Barkley or Shaq that said, considering what was at stake, would you say this was the finest performance of your career? That's how highly regarded, how highly they thought of what he did against Wembanyama last night. And, Karl said, well, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say he thought it was, but matter of fact, he thought he didn't shoot particularly well. But he was really good last night, and Brunson is so good. But anyways, so sometimes, who you trade, I guess they could trade McCarthy, The only fear, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of had a suspicion they were going to trade him at draft time. And
yeah, you did. That's right.
The reason I thought that was, obviously you go out and you get Kyler Murray, which signals, all right, well, you don't have the same belief in J.J. McCarthy you once did. There's doubts there. But the thing that really tipped me off was when we signed Carson Wentz. And that was like in March, right? Like, here's a guy that, was almost an MVP in the league at one point. He could still get a QB2 job out there, I think, in my opinion.
Okay.
And when he signed so early in the offseason, I thought, this is odd that Carson would sign here to be the third quarterback, like this early, without examining his options and seeing if there's a backup quarterback somewhere else.
Oh, sure.
To take the number 3 spot here in March just seemed odd to me. So to me, I thought, well, they're going to try to trade J.J. McCarthy. Well, they still might have some value in him, right? I mean, the longer it goes where he doesn't play, there's always going to be someone out there that liked J.J. McCarthy out of college and go, oh, I can mold that guy.
I'm a quarterback whisperer,
yeah,
too.
I can shape that guy. And the longer we go, the farther you get away from that draft, the less likely that is to happen, and the value is going to go down. Given J.J. McCarthy's comments, I know that KOC just addressed, he does seem like a guy who's kind of annoyed he's in this situation. Maybe he's asked to get traded. I don't know. And maybe just they haven't found a taker yet. And most teams kind of have their quarterback room solidified at this point. So it's kind of probably hard to find a spot for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if he got traded.
Well, I do believe he is annoyed. And then there's the reason, then you have to, and we're not going to know until he writes that book, if he ever does, but is he annoyed at just the situation because, I talked about this a couple times earlier today. I said, he went from being on top of the world, right? Looking down on creation. And the only explanation I can find is only lost one game in high school and college and 10th overall pick. Was going to be the franchise quarterback. Had that great game, one fourth quarter, which he was NFC Offensive Player of the Week. And it's pretty much been all downhill from there. So is he just like, how did I get to this point? Or is he annoyed that he doesn't think he's been given a fair enough shake? Why is everybody down on me? I'll get better. I'm a young kid, So you're right. He could be annoyed and maybe does want out. The Wentz thing, here would be my comeback to my explanation of why he did sign here was either for what you said, he knows he's going to be the number 2 guy, or remember, he grew up, I was a Minnesota fan my whole life and family up in Fargo, and maybe he knows, look, I'm probably never going to get that. He's being realistic. I'm not going to be a number 1 guy anywhere, and I like the area, I like the team. It's the one I grew up with, so it's as good a spot as any. And there does seems like there's a pretty good chance to play here than in other spots. If you're the backup for Pat Mahomes, you ain't playing much unless he gets hurt, right? So that could be one of the explanations, but you could be spot on that he figures that something's going to happen in that quarterback room that's going to give him a better opportunity. There's also, if you were looking at trade possibilities, the one team I suppose that could be interested. Did McCarthy play under Harbaugh at Michigan? Wasn't Harbaugh the coach then?
Yes.
Yeah. So could Harbaugh take a flyer on him and say, I like the kid and I need a backup quarterback? Now, I don't know if McCarthy would be interested in that because it seems like what's-his-face is
Herbert.
Herbert is, I think he's locked in as the starting
He's got a better chance of starting here.
Right.
Other than injury, of course.
Correct. So, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here.
The backup for LA right now is Trey Lance.
Okay.
So after Herbert, not the strongest quarterback room.
Yeah.
But when you do have, but then at that point, right, if the Chargers are trading to get J.J. McCarthy as a backup, at that point the Vikings are getting
peanuts.
6th, 7th round pick at best.
Yeah.
And is it really worth it even at that point then? Wouldn't you rather just still hold on to him in case there's some semblance of hope?
They're getting peanuts, and they have to sweep up the shells from the locker room floor too, which is unfortunate for them. Yeah, you're right. That's probably true too. Couple of other text messages that came in. This one says, I understand this is a sports station, but where else can I go to talk about Uncrustables? I don't know where that would be right now. I don't know if there's an Uncrustable radio station for anybody.
We're starting an Uncrustables podcast that you'll be able to hear on the iHeartRadio app.
Because here's what I'll tell you. It's a controversial topic. I get that, and not a lot of people would want to touch it. Here's one that says, air fried Uncrustables are a game changer. Try it. Air fry them. Do you have an air fryer?
I do.
Do you swear by it? Is it a wonderful thing?
I love it. Yeah.
Well, my wife and I have been. This is a very difficult decision that you have to make. It's torn families apart. Do you want an air fryer or not? We're thinking of getting one. You would recommend it?
I love it. The problem is like any other appliance you add to your kitchen, it just takes up more space, right?
How is it cleaning? Is it a tough clean too?
That's not a tough clean.
Okay. All right. Here's another. grape, strawberry, freeze, thaw, flaunt. Can you make your Uncrustables last? That's another question that has to be answered. This is controversial. I'm just curious. What's the love affair with Kevin O'Connell? Has never won a playoff game, talks in circles, no consistency. I don't get it. I don't think he's alone there. I think what McCarthy has going for him, not McCarthy, O'Connell has going for him, tend to be, he's hip now with it. Wow, he's young. He comes from the McVay tree. In his first season with the Purple, he went 14-3, and they had some incredible comebacks in those games. They were spellbinding wins. And then we lost to the Giants. Wasn't that the first year he was coach? We lost to the Giants, or I have my seasons confused. I think so. I thought that was his first year. And he's considered very innovative. He's that young breed of play callers. He's, whether you believe I'm not as convinced as a lot of other people that he's just like Midas. When anything Midas would touch to turns to gold, that any quarterback he comes in contact with is going to be a Pro Bowler or a franchise quarterback. But, and then he had another really good season. Now, I know we got drilled by the Kitties and then got drilled by the Rams, and that season went south under Darnold. So that was another. So he's 0-2 in the playoffs, and then he's had wedged it 4 years altogether, right? He had the great year, 14-3. Then we had did we go like 7-10?
Something like that.
And then we bounced back to another good. I don't remember what was it.
I think 13-4 was the first one. 14-3 was the Darnold year.
That's right. And then
last year they were 9-8, but they won 5 in a row at the end. As the new GM kept pointing out yesterday, as if that meant anything.
Yeah, against teams that really weren't very good, and then a Packers team that was resting all their starters. So, but you do wonder, again, now new general manager, and how much say does he have in the coaching position? Does he? Let's say the Vikings struggle this year, for argument's sake. Is KOC, do you think he's on a cold seat, warm seat, hot seat, lukewarm seat? I don't know. I don't think
he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, I don't think he's in any danger right now.
Ownership just is glowing about him every time they talk about him.
Yeah.
Well, here's how I'll defend KOC a little bit.
Okay.
Because people love to throw out the never won a playoff game.
Yes.
Which is accurate. Has anyone ever thought any of these teams KOC has coached is a super talented team? I don't believe so, but I've never thought, man, the Vikings are super talented. A dog with a note in his mouth could coach this team.
Yeah.
Right? Like the years they went 13-4 and the year they went 14-3, I don't think anyone thought they were that good of a team.
Yeah.
And I felt like they did get coached up a little bit in those 2 years. So that's where I'll defend KOC a little bit. I mean, we haven't been nailing draft picks during his time. Now, maybe he's part of the reason for that. I don't know how much influence he's had on the draft.
Yeah.
But I think he's been working with very average talent.
Yeah, I guess you could make that argument. And it's the old, was it Rapunzel? I think I'm going back to old fairy tales from when I was a kid. I think it was Rapunzel who would spin straw into gold, right? It's like the old, you can't turn a cow's ear into a rum and coke, something like that. I don't know. There's an old saying in Tennessee. I know there is in Texas, but a silk purse out of a cow's ear, I think that's what it's called. Can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, right? So yeah, if you don't have a lot to work with and you're able to manufacture some pretty good seasons, it's like, whoa, that guy, maybe he can coach. So,
and the one losing season he had was the year Cousins got hurt. And then we went Pasternaut. We played like 3-4 quarterbacks that year. Nick Mullins. And then last year we had J.J. McCarthy, who wasn't up to the test. But we had more quarterback injuries last year.
Sorry. My mouse got stuck. Yoga band's breast. I'm I'm going to go ahead and just listen to players and actual personnel in the NFL regarding Kevin O'Connell and his quality as a head coach. Once we start listening to the Rubes and Richards who listen to KFAN, then you've lost the plot. Well, yeah, I get that. But I'm just as much a Rube. I mean, and maybe my opinion doesn't mean anything. I mean, I can only go from... He hasn't won a playoff game. Now, Tenneby's right. He hasn't had a whole heck of a lot to work with. They blew the Darnold situation completely and entirely. Some would say that's a fireable offense right there. How do you let him walk out of the building after he generated a 14-3 season? So he had a mediocre game against Detroit. Didn't play very well against the Rams, though I will still insist that the Rams game had a lot more to do with a terrible offensive line. The coach is 20 minutes after the game, the coach is saying, we need to improve the interior of our offensive line. That's how bitter he was. You don't generally see coaches come out right after a loss and start talking about we need personnel changes and specific personnel. He could have basically named the two offensive guards in the center by name and said, we need to replace Bradbury and whoever the guards were. I don't know. He could have just mentioned them by name. So, yeah, you can believe NFL personnel people. They always say kind things about these players and these coaches. They're all one big happy family out there. So I don't know. Though I don't think he is a bad coach. But I don't know how good he really is. No, where'd that one go? Someone said they don't use a microwave anymore. They said it's been, they've replaced the microwave with an air fryer and that microwaves are going to be a thing of the past. Here's one. San Diego, wow, that was a fresh tale. TP said that 4 hours ago on the power trip. Who's TP? Oh, Tom Pelissero. Oh, I didn't know.
We weren't listening.
Yeah. Can I tune you in on a secret? I don't listen to the power. I'm golfing. I was out on the golf course. I don't have time to listen to it.
You can listen on the iHeartRadio app.
I don't have radio on.
Oh, there's listening to music on the golf course. You could have the iHeartRadio app.
I could, but I don't. So I didn't know what they said. I mean, and that's not... Let me just say this. The Pelissero take wasn't fresh either. There were rumors the first year we had McCarthy that we would trade the draft pick to San Diego for Herbert because Harbaugh was in love with him. That was going on leading up to the draft. It's not a fresh take at all that Harbaugh would be interested in McCarthy. What I said at the time when they talked about that, I dismissed that by saying, yeah, I'm sure Harbaugh admires McCarthy, loves what he did for him and helping him win a national championship. But remember, that was a running-based team that had one of the best defenses in pro football. And when you've got an established, whatever you think of Herbert, he's still pretty good and he's established. You're a head coach, you got an established quarterback in Herbert, or you go with McCarthy, I think they're going to stick with Herbert. So that wasn't necessarily a real fresh take by anybody. So... yeah. This one says, where we're getting a lot of text messages. This one says, the guy that let Darnold walk did get fired. That wasn't KOC. Oh, okay. You believe what you want to believe.
That's his fall guy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is where... This is where when the guy said he'd listen to personnel people rather than listen to rubes. I'm just telling you, you can believe whatever you want to believe. O'Connell wields a lot of power there. And you're not going to tell me that if he desperately wanted to keep Darnold no, there's not a chance. If KOC would wanted Darnold, he'd still be on the club. Do you believe that or not? I don't think that was crazy. I don't believe that at all.
I mean, they kind of wanted him a little bit. They technically made him a contract offer.
Yeah, they lowballed him.
Yeah. Well, 1 year, yeah.
Lowballed him with a 1-year deal. Yeah, I don't I don't buy that in any way. There's not a chance that was strictly a Kwesi thing. But maybe it was. I don't know. I've never asked either one of them. I don't think anybody has. I don't think that's ever I don't think that's ever been responded to by either, unless I missed it somewhere. And I missed plenty, trust me. I miss a lot of putts, too, and I used to be the best putter. But I got my new putter, and I like it. It's the new Scottsdale Tech Catch. Catch me if you can. Let's take a break, and when we come back, the legendary Mark Rosen will join us. Plenty to get to with Mark. I'm assuming he listened to the KOC presser, so we'll ask him what his thoughts were on that. NBA, NHL, Twins, and so much more here on the Condom Night program on the Fan.